Uh, Hello, Anil sir. Shall we start?
Yeah, okay. I think we can start.
Okay. Okay, sir. So, namaskar and good morning. Welcome to the first day of 3 days online training program on disaster management for Indian Oil Corporation Limited, jointly organized by National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, and Indian Oil Corporation Limited from 2nd to 4th December 2020. Myself, Raju Thapa, currently working in GMR division NIDM as a young professional, and I will be the moderator of today's session. India is among the world's most disaster-prone areas, as we all know that. And with growing technology, the possibility of occurrence, time, place, and severity of the strike of disaster can be reasonably and in some cases accurately predicted. Earlier, every industry, particularly those handling hazardous item and petroleum sector in bulk quantities, like in petroleum industry, strive to establish the best system and operating procedure for ensuring all time safety. The inherent risks in the oil well drilling and production are well known, and the management of the risk calls for a systematic planning, adopting engineering practices, and also positive attitude towards safety and environment protection. India, being one of the highly disaster vulnerable countries, has always been on its toe to confront the challenges posed by a number of disasters. A number of national interventions were carried out for disaster management. Even Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, during his address at the 7th ASEAN Conference, the ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk in 2016, outlined 10-point agenda on disaster risk management, in which he provided direction to add all the unprecedented challenges of disaster. If you see, has occurred in petroleum sector, say you take the example of this vessel in Vizag for the fire on the Guwahati and also so all took place in 2020. So in 2020, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi the situation on Assam blowout on 18th June 2020 and issued direction for training in disaster management in petroleum sector. So the main objective of this 3-day online training program is to develop a better understanding about basic concept of the HVDR and disaster management cycles, understanding the what is national disaster management plans, and also we will try to mainstream in the disaster risk resilience in development activities, and also we will try to understand the Indian preparedness in disaster mitigation in oil sector. What is the response and preparedness? What are the disaster risk reduction measures in cross-country national gas pipelines? We'll also try to understand the incident response system, IDRN, and supply chain system. So to begin with, today's program consists of 3 parts. So we will be graced by the presence of Mr. M.R. Dwivedi, CGM HSC, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, and Professor Surya Prakash, Head GMR Division NIDM, in the inaugural session to enlighten us with their vast knowledge and experience. And in the technical session, Professor Surya Prakash, Head GMR Division NIDM, Mr. Anil Kathet, Young Professional, Center for Hill Area Development NIDM, Sri VP Mahavar, former Director ONGC, and Sri Joydev Lahari, Chief Manager, Engineer and HSE Oil India Limited, will give an insight of the subject in more detail during their presentation. And after the completion of technical session, we will participant will be asked some group task or assignments in the group assignments. That will be followed by the that will be after technical session. Now, to call the meeting to order, I will request Professor Surya Prakash, Head GMR Division NITM, who is also the chair of this 3-day training program, for his keynote address. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are not audible, sir.
Now, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now you are audible, sir.
Okay, my Bluetooth perhaps did not work well. Anyway, being from disaster management, we only face some kind of disasters, whether it is technological, social, environmental, or physical, or psychological. So that makes us, I think, experienced, and also the knowledge and information that we gain from other sectors. So today, we are joined with the Indian Oil Corporation Limited. We are very thankful to them. Let me begin the keynote address with a warm welcome in the times, December 2020, which had been very much affected by a major disaster that has globally transgressed in the form of COVID-19. And we being from Delhi, at Delhi, are also affected by the pollution levels that have increased during the winter periods. So pollution, cold, COVID, and climate change, along with other disaster situations, are affecting us in the present day. And despite all the challenges, we all are here together to meet the needs of the time, and also trying to manage the situation and bring it under control. So I welcome, first of all, CGM, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, and all the management, executives, and functionaries of IOCL for participating with us in this 3 days online training program. I also welcome other distinguished speakers joining with us from today onwards for the next 3 days. Coming these 3 days, we will be talking a lot about various aspects, dimensions, factors, causes, and controls of disaster situations, particularly referring to the infrastructures, assets, properties, and human resources within IOCL and related oil and gas sector. We had begun with these programs as a consequence of what actually happened subsequent to the Bagyan oil well fire on 27th May 2020, which took lot of our oil and gas resources and also posed threats and some lives, human lives. So this was called upon, and a meeting was held by Honorable Prime Minister himself on 18th June 2020, wherein he actually emphasized personally that there is a need for training and capacity enhancement for disaster risk reduction and resilience within oil and gas sector. This was subsequently followed up by our Honorable Member Secretary, Shri GVV Sharma ji from Indian Administrative Services, who is also the current Member Secretary of National Disaster Management Authority. He wrote a letter to Secretary, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and requested to take up the training and capacity building programs in this sector with support from NIDM, National Institute of Disaster Management, which is actually mandated by the Disaster Management Act 2005 under Chapter 7, Sections 42 and 43. So NIDM also interacted with these organizations along with MOPNG and started with some of the basic programs, because in order to handle major issues, challenges, the first thing that is required is understanding the basics and the fundamentals of any problem. So disaster management being not have been taught earlier in our subjects. So the current functionaries within Government of India, state governments, as well as within the PSUs and corporate sectors, they are not well aware about the disaster management system as well as its principles and concepts. We thought of that, let's start with kind of draft program for the 3 days online training, which is only possible mechanism during this current pandemic period. So we had actually devised a short curriculum to refer to the various concepts, principles, philosophy, and fundamentals of disaster management, which will be referred in terms of IOCL's operations. But one of the things that I came across during these training programs is the actions of risks and disaster management within these two areas. One, what is being felt as operational risk and dealt by HSCs in the respective organizations. Each of these organizations had Health, Safety and Environment Division, which is looking into emergency response and disaster situations related particularly, or I would say specifically, on the operational risk. And they are also imparting training on that. Their training institutions are taking care of it very well. And they are trying to address whatever challenges they have been facing in terms of operational risk. However, when we talk about disaster management, we have dual perspective. One, what is likely to be generated from a particular activity or industry because of its own functions or operations. That is one part. The second part is, what are the other hazards around that industry where it is located, which can affect the industry. So you are expected not only to be safer from your own operational risks, but also to keep your safety levels high in terms of your human resources, safety of lives, in terms of your assets and infrastructures or properties from other kind of risks. That's where we will be trying to focus upon. For example, you can see that even the industry people, they have also been adversely affected by the COVID-19 situation. Now, this is not one of the operational risks, but it is one of the risks that will also affect the industry at large. So that's why our economy suffered a lot during the COVID-19 situation, because it could not remain functional because of this pandemic. So various kind of procedures were followed, guidelines were given by our Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to keep a control on such a situation. So this is one of the live examples of what needs to be considered in disaster management besides your own operational risk. And as far as I know, this is not still being covered in your training programs related to emergency response and disaster management. So therefore, this is one. Other is, recently, we had a cyclone, Nivar cyclone, in the coastal area, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Puducherry, etc. And prior to this also, we had another cyclone, Amphan cyclone, where it was affected in the West Bengal area. So lot of states are affected, and your infrastructures which are located in those states and your people are also likely to be affected by that. So our attention is safety at all times, at all places, for everyone, non-exclusive and ecosystem based. So this is one part. The second thing that I would like to emphasize in this address is that most oftenly we consider our roles and responsibilities towards our own employees and our own management. But the corporate sector's responsibilities or public sector responsibilities do not end there. They have also responsibilities towards the people of that locality where your infrastructure is located. For example, I give you one of the instances of way back in December 84. I think this was the day, 2nd December, if I recall it correctly, 2nd December night, the Bhopal gas tragedy had happened. This is very important day for us. Because at night when this methyl isocyanide got released from the industry, the people of the industry knew what to do and how to save themselves. However, the community around that area where that plant was working did not know. And had they known what to do to avoid the impacts of this toxic gas, most of the lives could have been saved. So that is what indicated or reflected us that not only the on-site plans but off-site plans in consultation with the local communities are equally important for all of us. So we have to work together with a non-exclusive principle, include all, and also working in all situations, all times. Most often disasters do happen at a time when we are caught unprepared, unaware and uninformed. And that brings the casualties to a higher levels. And therefore, if we want it to be reduced significantly, that is one of our aims under Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, which was actually declared during the third World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction in 2015 from 14th to 18th of March. Government of India is following several agreements. In 2015 itself, we had 3 major agreements. One of them was SFDR, I just told you, Sendai Framework, where that tsunami had happened in Japan on 11th of March 2011. Then we had Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals have been given there, and Paris Climate Agreement, COP21. So all these were actually clubbed together, and kind of a cumulative idea was given by Honorable Prime Minister during the first post-Sendai Asia Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction, where my colleague Mr. Raju Thapa was telling you 10-point agenda was given on disaster risk reduction. Further to this, I would just like to highlight that we often say in earth sciences, past and present are key to the future. So whatever has happened in the past or is happening today is likely to happen in future. So the situations, if they are similar or remain the same, it will be completely true. However, with the technological advancements, we are changing very fast. And now this principle doesn't remain completely true, as has been outlined by the Principal Secretary, Dr. P.K. Mishraji, Principal Secretary of PMO, where during a recent lecture at IIT Roorkee, he mentioned that this principle actually needs now more attention in terms of changing conditions, because we are changing fast and there are emerging threats like climate change. So this puts us on more responsibilities and more severe challenges in terms of disaster management. So as we are making changes or bringing new changes, or new changes are imposed on us, we have to actually adapt to new systems and new technologies, which has also been emphasized by Honorable Prime Minister as well. So these are some of the issues that we will try to discuss upon. Also, we have a national policy besides the National Disaster Management Act 2005, which was released on 22nd October 2009. And also, as per Act, we have a National Disaster Management Plan, which was first prepared in 2016 and revised during 2019. Now, all these actually have highlighted the roles and responsibilities of different stakeholders and what needs to be done. So who are those nodal agencies from where we will get the information? How do the system functions need to be known in terms of disaster management as well? So I urge that all the participants will interact actively during our academic sessions, and as we say in training, there cannot be any better way to learn than doing by yourself. So listening will not enrich your knowledge until unless you try to implement it or try to do it by yourself. Only you will know how much actually you acquired, how much did you actually understand, and can you implement. So implementation is most important. Knowledge is only useful if it is practiced well. So practice is more important. So we will also emphasize on procedures, SOPs, which may also need some kind of modifications in terms of disaster situations. So, let's try to document all those events which have happened in this particular sector within any organization, within the country or across the country, across the globe. So that it's not necessary that when disaster inflict upon us, then only we should have lessons learned. Rather, we should learn from other disasters also, or other disaster situations as well. So, and prepare timely and efficiently so that we can save lives. In disaster management, we talk about golden hours, the first 72 hours when maximum lives can be saved. But if I look at it from the oil and gas sector, that concept, even that concept, I have a doubt, because in the case of oil and gas sector, where I have heard the more frequent the blowouts, explosion and fire, which don't provide much time, which are very sudden and very fast and very spread out. So we have no other option but to be prepared in advance to either avoid or prevent such instances rather than responding to them. So economically, if I speak, this prevention is better than cure, and we can save a lot of money. There are estimates for that if you spend 1 rupee in prevention, that can save you 10 rupee to 100 rupees in terms of our response and recovery. So let's invest in disaster management, and this is one of the also actions, priority actions. There are 4 priority actions given in Sendai framework. One of them is understanding disaster risk. Second is strengthening disaster risk reduction and resilience. Third is investment in disaster risk. So that is emphasized. And fourth one is that learning from lessons learned from the recent and past disasters, and also building back better. So we have also this time fixed up some indicators for our progress in disaster and resilience. There are 7 targets as well. We'll discuss all those things slowly during this training program. But with these words, I would first like to thank IOCL for cooperating and collaborating with us in organizing this training program. And I would urge all the participants of this program, we have knowingly restricted it to your participants so that you can get more involved. So kindly do actively participate, ask questions as many as you can, and also try to do some exercises, because you cannot depend on others. We don't want you to depend on any DM organizations, rather become self-reliant and development. Atmanirbhar Bharat is the concept given by Honorable Prime Minister. So develop your self-dependency, and we do conduct training of trainers program, and then keep our hands together with them, but then wish everyone to be self-reliant and self-dependent and meeting their challenges around them, not only their economies, but also the safety of the lives around them, whether it is from their industry or the community around them. With these words, I wish all the best, and I would say कि मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जो सफर अख्तियार करते हैं, ऐसे मुसाफिर को तो यारो रास्ते भी इंतजार करते हैं. So let's begin our journey towards disaster risk reduction and resilience together. Thank you very much. Raju, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Like sir highlighted the importance of educating people about disaster. Disaster education is a professional and cost-effective tool for risk management. It is important for vulnerable people to learn about disaster. Trained people can better protect themselves and others. So in this regard, planning and designing comprehensive education programs are necessary for people to face disaster. And sir rightly highlighted that vulnerable individuals should be designed and implemented like training teams and adopting comprehensive and standard training program for these people. And accordingly, the impact of such training should also be assessed to identify the strength and weakness of such programs. So thank you very much, sir, for your address, and we will quickly get you back for your presentation in technical sessions. Now, I am humbled to request Mr. Mr. Manas Ranjan Dwivedi, sir, CGM HSC, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, for his inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Raju. Very good morning to all present in this webinar. Professor Surya Prakash, other faculties of NIDM, and industry members who will be joining us or maybe might have joined for this program, and all my dear participants of this webinar. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you for this 3-day online training program on disaster management. Let me inform participants, those who are not there in the training, the webinar we had was webinar on 28. This is first type of this webinar we are going to have with the help of NIDM. I must put on record our thanks to NIDM for accepting our request and kindly extending their help for becoming IOC self-resilient in disaster management, or understanding our employees understanding about the disaster and how best it can be told to our people. We feel NIDM would be the best institute available to us to get us enlightened in this. So prior to this, we also organized a 2-hour webinar on disaster management with NIDM. That was on 28th, which was well appreciated by participants. That was only curtain raiser to this program. I would take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the organizer and in particular honorable speakers, specifically to Professor Surya Prakash with his so enlightening keynote address the other day and today also. He touched upon almost every aspect of disaster management, then how industry should know about it, why they should know about it, and what is the legal framework. In Chris, everything has been very well covered in the keynote address by Professor Surya Prakash. My thanks to Professor Surya Prakash for this. Coming 3-day program would basically focus on topics like basic concept of disaster management cycle, Disaster Management Act 2005, something little bit we know about this in our earlier session on 28. Then mainstreaming disaster reduction and in development activities. Then India's preparedness in disaster mitigation in oil sector. Disaster risk reduction measures in cross-country natural gas pipeline. To be very specific, we'll be going to listen from Dr. S.P. Garg from GAIL. We are going to have Mr. Maharwar, ex-ONGC. We are going to have Mr. Lahiri, Oil India, and other faculties from NIDM would be saying us about IRS, IDRN, India Disaster Resource Network, and supply chain management. All those things sessions. These sessions will be followed by assignments and groups exercise on first 2 days, whatever has been told by the faculties. The participant would be required to submit some assignment, prepare some assignment, and there will be some group exercises as told by Professor Surya Prakash on only learning is not enough. if you know, if you have more knowledge, but if you don't practice it, that knowledge is of no use. So as rightly told by him, in the end of the program or maybe last day of the program, whatever has been learned by the participant in 2 days deliberation has to be in form of exercise, has to be deliberated, has to be discussed among the groups as well as by NIDM faculties. So that will be quite interesting. And I request all the participants to be very attentive and very interactive with the faculties to learn the things, whatever is going to be told in these 2 days. And whatever assignment is given by NIDM to the participant to have this group exercise done in last day, that should also come very seriously. People should attend this and do the group exercises afterwards. The major outcomes that we expect from this webinar is to enhance the capability of our employees in assessing crucial preparedness and readiness of various departments to respond during any disaster and emergency. And these departments in today's concept of this training, we restrict it to our departments which we expect to get involved, rather than extending it towards district authority. Of course, they have their own framework, and as far as offsite disaster management is concerned, particular to our industry, let me inform August gathering and learned faculties of NIDM that we prepare on-site emergency plan and share that with respective district authorities, and district authority do have a off-site plan encompassing all the industries in the district, and they have a district disaster plan that you must be knowing, and I needless to mention that. But we are a part of this district disaster management group, and to our concept, we do, as far as our operational risks are concerned, we do have training programs specifically to our operational risk, and we do educate our employees regarding how to handle our operational risk, whether it is on-site or off-site. So you may be knowing that cross-country pipeline traverses crisscross in the country from, and those land belongs to the landowner. IOC doesn't have any ownership on the land. So as far as operational risks are concerned, it is on-site and off-site, both related to our operation is being catered to by Indian Oil, of course, with the help of district authorities. But we do have a system of training our people. We do have a system of carrying out off-site and on-site mock drills. And that is as per the mandate of ERDMP 2010, recently updated to 2020 by the PNGRB. And while preparing the ERDMP document, these aspects, operational risk aspects are covered, and some natural calamities like earthquake, flood, and those type of things are also covered in our DMP document, but it is restricting to our area of operation only. So we don't have the DMP covering other aspects and other risk, societal risk or things like that. So that is one thing. And during this mock drill, we try to simulate a situation like real-time thing. If it happens, to be specific to pipeline, if we go for an off-site mock drill in a pipeline, cross-country pipeline, some location away from our installation, let's say we call it mainline, we call it right-of-way and all those things. So at some particular village, we declare a sort of severe leakage from pipeline, maybe pipeline burst, maybe wash out due to the river course change and all things like that. And then how we are going to attend those type of risk with the help of district authorities, all other sort of stakeholders, that we practice. And then IOC pipeline, we have a system of carrying out such offsite drill, all the district through which pipeline traverses once in a year. That is offsite drill, we do it. Just for information of our esteemed faculties, and just reiterate our participant who are from other than pipeline division, because let me inform Professor Surya Prakash, we have participants from refinery and marketing also. Though it's the first program being organized by pipeline, we'll follow different programs in the future days to come. And just for information of other participants and to esteemed faculties, we have this system of doing annual offsite mock drill in different parts of, in every district we have one drill every year we do this. That is towards this operational risk mitigation. Second thing, what you covered in your keynote address regarding responsibility towards people in locality. Specific to pipeline division, we have a system of village awareness program. As rightly told, unprepared, unaware, and uninformed people are more at risk than people well informed. So in pipeline division, we have a system of going for this village awareness program in the pipeline, in the pipeline which is traversing through the villages. So we have a system of involving the people of the villages, and we explain them. It starts from very concept of project conceptualization, the risk involved in the pipeline operation and pipeline laying and all those things. That is informed to the community at large in the form of this public hearing process. And in the public hearing process, necessarily we inform them the risk and what are the reduction measures we plan to go for it and how we can prevent it. Very rightly told by you that prevention is better than cure. And basically, as an industry professional, we do invest much more on prevention than maybe fighting it. So that is our key area. Like we really do adapt to the best technology available, adapt to the best practices, to have best documentation so that nothing untoward happens. And if doing all those things, any untoward incidents happen, then how to handle that? We do have this disaster management plan. Even prior to this gadget notification of PNGRB on ERDMP, we are having that since inception of the industry. But we are having this DMP with us. And after this ERDMP, publication of ERDMP and NDMP Act, it has been amalgamated and a composite document has been prepared. You may be also knowing that recently, maybe a couple of months before, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas also has modified or updated the DMP of ministry as per maybe advice of Mr. GBS Sharma, Secretary of NDMP Authority. And earlier, the ministry's DMP was based on NDMP 2016. That has been now updated with 2019 version. So that is also now it is approved by ministry and it is circulated to all the industry members for maybe its implementation. So that is one thing that has happened. And as far as IOC pipeline is concerned, towards responsibility towards people in the locality, we do have a system of this village awareness program. Through this village awareness program, we educate the people how to inform about any such events, how where they can go. We have a system of toll-free numbers that is displayed across, so that anybody finding any abnormality in the right of way can immediately inform to the IOC officials, so that quickly that can be attended. And these are a few steps that has been taken by our company. And similar things are also there in marketing and refinery also. They also do have this type of awareness program for locality and educate people regarding the risk and the risk reduction measures specific to our operation. But with this involvement of NIDM, we are going to get opportunity to learn the sort of our country's perspective on disaster management and what are the different aspects in a very systematic way. So and the NIDM, with the resources they have, with the expertise they have, with involvement of industry members, this program, I wish that this program should be the great success and it should benefit our employees at large. So before I conclude, I would like to communicate that we at Indian Oil follow and maintain good standards for safety of our people, the process and the assets, beside caring for people around us. I urge all the participants to actively engage in various course sessions and discussions on disaster management and clear all the doubts from the learned faculties. I will not take much of your time. With this, I declare this program open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. for your sparing your time from busy schedule to motivate and enlighten our participants regarding the 3-day training program, and also highlighting the initiatives and works of IOCL towards disaster risk reduction and resilience with your vast experience and wisdom. Thank you very much, sir. So with that, we have come to the end of the inaugural session. Now, moving on to the technical session, we have some senior level resource person, experts, professionals, functionaries who have very long and meaningful experience, and who will be discussing, sharing their knowledge on their subject during this 3-day training program. So during the technical session, there will be presentation, and once the presentation is over, we will have question and answer sessions at the end of each presentation. So it will be a very great opportunity for you to improve and clear your doubts. So your active participation is very important to us, and kindly use the question answer chat window. That is, I think you can see the question answer chat window or the chat window to raise your question. We will take your question at the end of each presentation. So to start our presentation, for our first presentation, we have with us Professor Surya Prakash, Head GMR Division NIDM, who will be talking about the basic concept of SBCR and disaster management cycle. He is the head of Geometeorological Risk Management Division and is in charge of 5 specialized centers. He was also associated with various prestigious institutions such as CBRI, IIT Roorkee, JNU, Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, FRI, VIT, etc. He has also published several national and international research publications, books, articles, etc. in some of the very high impact factor journals. Professor Surya Prakash is also the nodal officer for coordinating with Central Ministry's Department for Disaster Risk Management related to planning, research, and capacity building for various ministries such as Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Coal, and with these words, I would like to pass on the stage to us. Over to you, sir.
Raju, am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
You are audible now, sir.
Okay. Now this time this Bluetooth is working.
Yes, you are audible.
So technology is supporting now. So let me share a PowerPoint with all the participants. And this is something that is must for everyone to understand. The 4 letters which are prerequisites in any disaster management activity. Without this understanding of 4 letters, you cannot make any words in disaster management or any sentence from those words, which can bring any meaningful situation or understanding of disasters to manage them well. So let me first make it very clear. And often, this is also one of the issues that I get a question that I'm concerned with my own work. Within my area, there is no risk or very limited risk. Then why should I learn more about disaster management, or why should I learn about other disasters which are not happening around me? Now, today's words, we are very much mobile. Excluding the current time when the mobilities have been constrained or restricted. Otherwise, this transport and communication has become very, very important. We are not restrained or confined within our physical premises. We are very much going to different areas. And when we talk about disaster management, we are not talking about while you are working only within your industry or your infrastructure. You may be visiting other premises, other offices, traveling to other areas. Then also safety of lives would be a concern in those locations and those times as well. So I often say, why should one learn about disaster management? Disasters can affect anybody. They don't know what is your level in your institution, whether you are at the grassroots level or at top management level. So they don't distinguish. Like the current pandemics, you know that our honorable ministers have also been affected like the other community people. So any place, anytime, particularly when we are neither aware nor prepared, particularly those people, you know, remember the condition how our honorable president of USA, Trump, got affected when he was also trying to say something about that mask is not necessary, whereas our prime minister is always in emphasizing on that three-step golden rules: wear mask properly, do not touch your face frequently, follow hand hygiene, keep 2 meters safe distance, and frequently sanitize or disinfect surfaces wherever you touch oftenly. So these are the things where we have to follow to reduce, resist, or respond to disaster situations. The second thing, why we should learn about it, because in day-to-day lives, we may come across situations which can be handled or managed within your own resources, within your own capacities, within by the skills that you have or you possess. However, the consequences of disasters are enormous losses, that is substantial loss, heavy death tolls, not one or two, many people get killed. You know, daily we are getting numbers of casualties because of COVID-19. Irrecoverable damages. Now those who have been lost or who develop comorbidities, they continue to suffer. Unforgettable miseries. Many of us who lost our near and dear ones in these kind of disaster situations, whether it was Uttarakhand disaster in June 2013, the Imphan disaster tragedy 2020, or the wildfire or blowout, or the flooding situations that happened in Kosi, or that happened in Assam or Telangana. So many places we have suffered from many different disaster situations, and they actually create a trauma in our minds, and the memories remain unforgettable. So we have unforgettable miseries undermining human survival, growth, and sustenance. And these disasters actually erode away all our gains and threaten our survival because we lose everything around us. Suppose there is a flood in any area, everything at the ground levels will mostly be adversely affected. Now you need a new system to go ahead again. And whatever has been affected, the growth you had achieved actually sets back. And you need more time to recover and come to that normal situation which existed before the disaster. And sustenance means if these situations do happen, you cannot make it available for your future. So sustenance is not only just safety, but passing it over the resources, the benefits of these developments to our future generations as well. So this thing we spoke, just discussed in the inaugural lecture, and aware, informed, and prepared communities and industries are required. So information, knowledge, and actions. Actions I give more importance are prerequisites for disaster risk reduction and resilience. So let's try to learn about these letters to make words, and words to make sentences, and sentences to bring meanings to us. Okay. Now, if you see first term hazard, which is normally denoted by H, there is a definition which has been given by UNISDR. A dangerous phenomena, substance, human activity or condition that may cause loss of life, injury or other health impacts, property damage, loss of livelihood, and services, social and economic disruptions, or environmental damage. So all these actually are the harmful impacts beyond our capacities that are done by a particular phenomena, activity, or a condition, or a substance. Okay. However, for the industry, I would urge a slight different definition to be followed, because when we talk from the international levels, we go with some generalities, not very specificities. Specificities means that when you have to deal with any situation, you have to know everything about it. Because I tell you one Czechoslovakian proverb, misfortunes enter when window is left open to them. So if you leave any space for any disaster to happen, then all our efforts will be useless, will go in vain. So therefore, I would suggest another definition which will be bringing you more close to the practices for disaster reduction. I would say that you should say in terms of hazards is probabilities, that how many times a particular event is likely to happen, this substance, this condition or activity. Because when we plan within a given space, within a given time frame, and for a given function or with a given aim. Okay. So let me define it in other terms as a probability of occurrence. I am using the same words in terms of probability. Probability of occurrence of a given phenomena, dangerous phenomena, substance, human activity or condition. Okay. The rest definition will remain same up to environmental damage, but I would add few things more to confine it and become more close to the real situation. Damage within a given space, within a given geographical space, and within a given time frame, so that we are going very close to it. So this is what you can do. Then second is, every person, like the human beings or any event or condition, will have some characters, because these will be judged by their geographical spread or their speed of onset or their mass, volume. So we should look into that. And also, once it follows, is it an instantaneous single episode, or is it a chain of reactions? For example, if I look into oil and gas sector, it's a chain of hydrocarbons. Most of the products or byproducts, they are hydrocarbons and chain of carbon and hydrogen sequences, maybe in multiple numbers. Okay. And when an event happens, it can have a cascading impact, one leading to the other. So that leads to be not only dealt in one situation, but considering all kind of situations. So I say hazards can be single, instantaneous and episodic, sequential, followed by one followed by the other, or combined, maybe explosion with fire. So both the things acting together will bring more adverse consequences when these bad events come together. कहते हैं ना कि कोई बुरी आपदा आती है या समस्या आती है तो अपने साथ अपने भाई बहन और रिश्तेदार भी लेकर आती है. So this is what we are looking for, and their origin and effects. Now, how do I characterize this? I use the location. Where does it actually happen? Exact spot. Then magnitude. How big it happens? What is the dimension? Fire can be very small, but fire can be very big. For example, the Bagan oil fire, it took almost more than 5 months to extinguish, to curb the fire using various mechanisms. So magnitude was very, very high. frequency means how frequently it occurs. Is it only once or it can recur? Then within say a certain period of time for which we are preparing our plans, how many times are we likely to face? There are events which are seasonal. For example, during the monsoon periods, we are often facing floods. They are recurring annual phenomena and within given geographical settings. Similarly, landslides or cyclones. You know, most of these cyclones, they are happening during May, June or October, November. So these are the things we are likely to face during certain seasons as well. So seasonal and non-seasonal. For example, earthquake do not happen. It can happen anytime. Tsunami can happen anytime. So we have to prepare all the time. But there are events which may be predictable and may be bound by certain conditions that happen during a particular period of the year. Then we can know about it. Then the duration, how long it will survive. You know, monsoons, our June to September. So if we are expecting within certain conditions, so duration will be defined during that period. Or for example, this duration of Bagyan fire, I say it started in 27th May and got extinguished in November. Okay, so that was the duration of that fire. Now, more the duration, more will be the impact. So how we can confine the total duration or the time of onset. If it happens at night, an earthquake, or a earthquake happens during daytime, how will the consequence will differ? How would you act? At night, most people are almost subconscious, unawakened, so they can get caught into the trap and become victims. However, during daytime, people are conscious and awake, so they can take appropriate actions if they have learnt about it or practiced about it. So these are the things that need to be taken care. Then speed of onset, how fast it happens. Why I worried about the oil and gas sector is that compared to all other fires that we come across, this fire in oil and gas sector actually rises very fast. The speed is very fast. Within 3 minutes of time, the fire will gain the highest temperature. So becomes difficult to face it. Rate of propagation is also very high because it is all inflammable materials. So we have to look into how fast it rises, how fast it spreads, and how fast it happens, and how sudden it happens. And probability means how many chances are likely that this event will happen within a given span of time and space. So that spatial and temporal predictability based on its governing conditions and factors or causes must also be determined for these hazards. So the definition which I just told you before, I've just written it here, that this is how we can define it more in close proximity to the situations that we face in the ground. Now, in terms of disaster, hazard is something which is expected, which can cause damage, which has not caused. So if we deal it with timely or bound the hazard or keep it confined or limit it or resolve it, then we may not face the consequence. However, disaster is the actual event which has caused, which will cause. So the results, you can see the Disaster Management Act 2005 I've just written is given a definition, which we need to follow in all our activities as a catastrophe, mishap, calamity, or grave occurrence. So these are the words which has been used for this phenomena, activity, or condition. In area, arising from natural and man-made causes. You see that it's not referring only to natural phenomena, but also saying any anthropogenic activities can also cause it. So it can be a combined effect. Causes or by accident or by negligence. It may not be necessary that because of just ignorance. It may be accident or by negligence. Maybe you ignored something and caused a disaster, which results in substantial loss of life or human suffering, or damage to or destruction of property, or damage to or degradation of environment, and is of such a nature and magnitude as to be beyond the coping capacity of the affected community. Now, there are three elements in this definition of disaster. One, which is causing the damage, which has a potential hazard, no, which we discussed before. Second, the damage is very substantial. Substantial to what kind of elements? Elements are lives, properties, environment, economy. Okay. And how much, what is substantial? What is the rationality? Rationality is in terms of capacity. So there are three elements: hazard, vulnerability, and capacity, which has been referred in this definition. But those specific numbers have been given. Mind it, no numbers are given. It is only rational. You have to be proportionate to each other depending on the local conditions. Now, the potential disasters: losses in lives, health status, livelihood, assets, and services, which could occur to a particular community or a society over some specified period of time. So all these, if we have to assess in terms of the potential risks that what we are likely to face, because more we invest, more risk is expected. No, because higher investments means higher risk, because if they get exposed, higher possibilities of getting lost. In order to explain you diagrammatically, I just shown you a hillock on the top of which is a loose boulder. This loose boulder is a hazard because of steep slope. This boulder can roll down and can affect anything that is located downside. Now, in the first top figure, a human being is shown who is walking or who is located there. He is an element at risk who is vulnerable. Because why is vulnerable? Because this human being is a life which can be threatened, which is weak against the impact of this particular stone moving from a high place, right? So you have a hazard, you have a vulnerability, and if the two come together, that is the exposure to this hazard by a vulnerable element will, you know, the consequence is the down figure where the human has been lost. So a hazard can turn into a disaster. Hazard will turn into a disaster when elements at risk, that is people I am just showing here in danger zone because of this figure. That means element can be a human element, it can be a physical element, or it can be any other environmental element. So you can consider that. People in the danger zone are vulnerable. Vulnerable means they are weak. When they will get exposed, they will suffer from it. Don't have the capacity to cope with the impact of the hazard. So this guy who was exposed to this hazard did not have any protection. Had he got a protection, then he could have avoided the impact of that particular hazard or the rolling stone. So either the capacity should be enhanced, protection should be managed, or the exposure should be reduced so that the vulnerable elements do not get affected. So we have to intervene, intersect at a line where these two elements of hazards and vulnerabilities will meet together. Okay. So now what is this vulnerability which I am talking to you? As per UNISDR, now actually earlier it was UNISDR. We used to call it United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction. Now it has been termed as United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Office. We have in UN now Disaster Risk Reduction Office, not UNISDR. The vulnerability is the characteristics and circumstances of community system or assets. Means if you are asleep, you are subconscious, then likely getting exposed and affected by a particular hazard will be high. But the same element, if is awakened and knowing the actions to be taken, do's and don'ts, maybe they can avoid the impact. The vulnerability can be reduced. So the community, system or assets that make it susceptible to the damaging effects of hazards. Why we are talking about a system? Because individual vulnerabilities and collective vulnerabilities will differ. When you are living within a community, within a locality, you are not the only one. So it's a cumulative responsibility, collective responsibility, systemic responsibility. So system has to come into existence so that these vulnerabilities can be reduced. You can define this vulnerability as a factor of weakness in different elements or group of elements. You can define group of elements. For example, buildings can be one group, roads can be one group of elements, bridges can be one group of elements, humans can be another group of elements. Within even humans, for example, we can define the females and males, children or elderly or youth. So you can club different elements into groups depending on their degree of vulnerability. When exposed to a given hazard, why I'm saying given hazard? Because when you have to evaluate vulnerability of a building to an earthquake will be different than vulnerability to an earthquake or to a fire. Okay. In an earthquake, may get completely collapsed, may not be usable, need to be reconstructed. But in case of fire, the building structure by itself may not get much affected if the fire is not that high intensity, or it is just big machinery building. Okay. Whereas in other cases, for example, if it is RCC framed building, you remember what happened in Twin Tower tragedy, 9/11, 11th September 2001, when the planes hit, it got fired, and the temperature of fire actually melted all the steel bars within the building, and building got completely collapsed. So the different type of buildings may have a different kind of vulnerabilities. So now you have to look into. For example, let's talk about oil and gas sector. Our CGM, Indian Oil Corporation, in the inaugural program said that we have refineries also and we have pipelines, and we have pipelines not only within the country but cross country also. Now in the refinery the risks will be different, right, than in the pipelines. So the vulnerabilities with respect to the same resource will differ depending on the kind of conditions in which it exists. You remember one of the these oil storages in Jaipur, when got fire, we lost lot of resources. So we had a fire in storage, and we had also fire in oil wells, which I talked to you in Bagyan. I remember more in cases. For example, I remember there was an earthquake in January 1995. I think it was 14th of January 1995, when an earthquake, Kobe earthquake, happened in Japan. Japanese were well prepared against the impacts of earthquake because they oftenly faced it. So they were using actually timber buildings to to reduce the impacts of the vibrations and collapse of the buildings. What happened during this 1995 earthquake, that they had a lot of these gas pipelines which were going around these buildings. And during the earthquake, these pipelines actually got ruptured and gas got leaked. And leakage of the gas actually caught fire. And the casualties during the earthquake happened more because of those fires than because of the earthquake. More than around 5,000 people got killed because the timber building immediately got burned because of fire, but not because of the earthquake. So those kind of situations can happen. That's what I wanted to just point you out. Or another way of defining your the vulnerability of different elements or group of elements is percentage or fraction of all the elements in a particular set of elements that will be affected by a specific event to a certain extent. That means building, say it gets fire, then certain portions which are having inflammable materials or inflammable paints, they will be more exposed and more affected compared to others where we have fire resistant coating, where the material is less extinguishable, right? So that is all possible. So you can define that the percentage depending on the elements which are highly inflammable or non-inflammable or fire resistant. Okay, so we can define and create our actually facilities and infrastructure according to that we wherever we are working in times of emergencies and disaster situations, those facilities should be actually disaster resistant and should not get affected, so that we can control those situations. Based on the elements at risk, vulnerability can be classified as physical, social, attitudinal. Attitude is very important. I said knowledge is there, but people don't practice. For example, wearing mask is necessary. We are times and again stating this. Even Prime Minister during this lockdown has to launch a mass campaign, Jan Andolan for appropriate behavior in COVID-19. Because of the attitudinal issues that people are thinking now it is opened up, so the situation is over, and again the cases started rising. So that attitudinal, ecological interdependency amongst the different elements is very, very important, has to be looked into. Human life, livestock, living places, or livelihoods, etc., everything can be defined as one type of vulnerabilities. You can define them accordingly. These vulnerabilities, I just mentioned 5. You can see also mentioned various factors which can be governing factors to define the vulnerabilities. For example, in physical vulnerabilities, I have defined land use planning. If I am constructing in very high hazard prone areas, say your pipeline is going, so it has to be a continuous line. It's a linear feature. Now this linear feature in a continuous mode will cross different territories of different hazard zones, where it may be crossing, say, from a mild, moderate to very high or extreme hazard zone. So you cannot stop your line because suddenly you came across in between there is a hazardous zone. So you will drop and will restart another line from there. So if you have to continue your lines, then you have to do everything to prevent damage and loss of that particular pipeline within that high hazard zone. So for example, I tell you one thing, that the pipelines maybe if you're taking care only of pipelines and the pressures within them or the corrosion within them, maybe you can do that well. But the pipelines are actually standing on certain base. It is within the ground or subsurface, but supported by certain materials below the ground. And if these materials give way, and you have not considered their characteristics and behavior during a particular hazard situation, then the pipes may suffer. So, for example, I give you one instance that during earthquake, the silty sands close to the riverine areas, they liquefy often. Sorry. So during this liquefaction process, the bearing capacity of the materials is lost. It behaves just like a liquid. And whatever structure stands, it can fall or subside. Many cases have been reported that all the structure although remain fully intact, but it gets tilted or becomes non-usable. So those kind of things will happen. Engineering and architectural density levels, the structures are very close by, then also it will affect the physical vulnerabilities, right? Settlement designs and criticals. So all those, for example, not only within that physical, other physical infrastructure, for example, within a building, if I'm saying physical building, no, you have number of other elements. For example, electrical fittings, if they have not been properly done, even that can become a cause of hazard. Okay. So during any event, say there is a flooding, the short circuiting does happen. Okay. Or use of gas pipelines. Suddenly the gas is not closed and it is released into the air and one goes to the kitchen and it gets fired. So many such different kind of instances are possible. Similarly, in a social setup, the social vulnerabilities will depend on the education and attitudinal levels. If people are well trained, they are well educated, right? And they have practiced well, they will be more safe compared to people who don't have an information about the exposure to a given hazard and also what to do. And also people by virtue of passing knowledge from one to other, that is the traditional and indigenous knowledge, also helps. So we can have a formal and informal set of knowledge. Economics depends on the poverty, the employment, and the economic settings of those areas, whether it is developed country or the developing country. So all those things and resources available to the people. For example, in developing countries, people are struggling for their day-to-day survival. So they cannot give an adequate attention for their safety in disaster situations. Many of the areas where people are living in most hazard prone areas are because of compulsions. Either they have their livelihood close to those areas or because they cannot afford to buy a plot or a house in a safer area. So these things happen. And environmental is in terms of natural air, water, biological resources or physical resources. We talk about in terms of biodiversities, forests, wildlife, water bodies, right, which are equally important. For example, spillage in oceanic waters, oil spillage can cause a lot of impacts on the biodiversity within the ocean. So that also needs to be taken care as a ecosystem disaster. Systemic vulnerabilities are in terms of the systemic approach, that is the institutional mechanisms, procedures, plans, policies, regulations, acts, legal mechanisms, codes are systemic things which need to be made stronger so that people do not act wrongly. So vulnerabilities will depend on exposure, resistance, and resilience. How strong the element is and how quickly it can regain its position will define the vulnerability. So today you are likely to be given this exercise that so that you can actually, whatever I'm talking, can try to practice that. What are the hazards around you in your organization, at your home, or at the places you oftenly visit? Then what are those vulnerable elements? And then vulnerability with respect to a specific hazard or combination of the hazards. And then what are you likely to do and what you should not do. Everything with respect to that has to be defined in a tabular manner so that comprehensively at one go you can understand the situation well. That's why we often use maps or tables and figures to do all that. Now, what is capacity? Capacity is actually a combination of all the strengths, attributes, and resources available within a community, society, or organization that can be used to achieve agreed goals for disaster risk reduction and resilience. So that means whatever things you possess in terms of your knowledge or physical resources or powers given to you to act upon a given situation is your strength as capacity. Okay. So capacity may be classified as physical, institutional, social, or economical, that can be enhanced by skills or by attributes or leadership. Resources are, I don't often say, in terms of man, material, money, machinery, services, manual, these provisions, etc., or procedures. So these all coming together will define our risk. Now, when I say specific risk, that means I am referring to a particular hazard, particular element at risk with a particular exposure and capacity. Then only I can define, and within a given space and time, then only I will be able to define risk. Have you done this kind of exercise in your own area to define those risks? Has to be seen. Now, elements at risk, as I said, you can group them depending on their characteristics as people, properties, economic activities, or services, whatever you may define, within a given space, with respect to a given hazard, within a given time frame. So mind it, I am always talking to limit everything within spaces because we cannot go beyond certain boundaries. We have our functional boundaries, we have administrative boundaries, we have geographical boundaries. So where within which we can work. And total risk is when you have all the specific risks combined together, given risks combined together, then you will be adding them or multiplying them to know the complete risk. Okay. So because we need to actually first understand what are the different types and dimensions of the risk, and then in order to define our priorities, we have to actually go for cumulative risk. Cumulative risk is ultimate risk. And this equation will be dealt with as hazard, exposure, vulnerability, and because cost benefit ratios are often talked about in terms of investments, so we add value. However, in our conditions, we may be able to attach value to certain elements and may not be able to attach value to certain other elements. For example, you can attach a value to a building, but not to a human life. In our areas, we don't give a value because we say human life is intangible. In Western countries, they do have value of the life also. So everything is counted in terms of physical or economic parameters. But for us, life is intangible, whereas buildings and physical elements may be tangible, which can be estimated in terms of economic terms. And then divide them by capacity. You look into this equation, that itself will give you options for risk management. That if risk is proportionate, directly proportionate to hazard, exposure, and vulnerability or values, then if you reduce the terms on the upper side, right, numerator, then maybe we will be able to reduce the risk. Or if you will enhance the capacity, the denominator, then also risk can be reduced. So we'll have to find out what is possible, practically feasible. So we talked about this risk star. Disaster is actually a Latin word, which is actually combined, made with two main words, which is des and aster. Des means bad, aster means star. In old times, they used to think a bad star appears in the sky and disasters occurs. So I'm just showing you a star kind of diagram where I'm talking all those 4 or 5 terms which I have talked to you in terms of risk, hazard, exposure, vulnerability, and location. How close you are to that particular hazardous event. And where all the 4 will come together will define our risk. So this HVCR is very, very important. So now you can understand that how you carry out your activities under HSE. But what you have to do is HVCR in any disaster management plan, so that you can follow the risk management principles. And that is the first principle that Honorable Prime Minister in 10-point agenda said, that all developed sectors should imbibe principles of disaster risk management, so that you can reduce the probabilities or you can reduce the incidents or their impacts. Risk assessment is actually a complex process of identifying hazards, vulnerabilities, capacities, and the risks to people, to properties, to the services, to economy, to environment, to life, everything. And then you can qualify them as insignificant risk. If it is tolerable within or acceptable, it is insignificant. Minor, moderate, major, and catastrophic. So all these kind of things can be done using a matrix of hazard, capacities, and consequences. So if probabilities are high and also the consequences are very high, so therefore it will take a priority for us. Because the probability is also high and consequences are also high, therefore we must give a preference and should give adequate attention to mitigate or to manage that. Or if we cannot mitigate, prepare against that. And the process of disaster management also has been defined in the Act. So I think my colleague is likely to follow all this. So I will skip all this and just tell you briefly about risk management cycle. We used to actually follow in old times that any disaster will happen, we'll go for ad hoc piecemeal response for disaster management. Now we say this is a continuous cycle of disaster risk reduction, where we go for hazard analysis. Even if there is no disaster, we use historical database, scientific database, and statistics to know about the potential hazards, do their analysis, also identify the vulnerable elements and their exposure, carry out vulnerability analysis, and define the levels of the risk. And thereafter, after we know the risk, then we try to prevent those risks. And if we are not able to prevent the risk, then we try to mitigate those risks or reduce those risks. Still, because nature is mightier than the man, There are remnant risks which will always be there and we may get exposed. So we prepare against that. So preparedness planning is required. And for preparedness, because all the times you cannot be 100% prepared. So therefore, we continue to monitor such hazards which remain there, and monitoring, prediction and warning is what we follow, whether it is operational or geographical or anthropogenic or any other case. So this is what is the risk management cycle. Remain prepared against the situations in terms of response as well. So we pre-position our National Disaster Response Force, State Disaster Response Force, and give them the skills, equipment, and the powers to act in disaster situations. So efficient response and rehabilitation, restoration, recovery, resettlements, all are followed with that. So this is what we do in advance so that we become resilient. Resilient means we try to bounce back to those situations which existed just before the disaster occurred as quickly as possible. So to absorb, to resist, to respond, and to recover quickly and efficiently is a requirement. So with these mechanisms, I would just skip because I think slowly we'll be working on that. But the options, as I'm mentioning, that first is avoid encounter with the disaster. We have a proverb said either keep the hazard away from you or keep yourself away from the hazard. Or prevent means remove the cause of the hazard or the factors affecting the occurrence and the severity of the hazards. So mitigate means reduce the magnitude, volume, speed of onset, propagation, etc., so that the severities can be reduced. Structural and non-structural measures in terms of physical and non-physical measures. Preparedness. So I will just stop by here. The ability of the system to get exposed, to accommodate, absorb, and recover timely and efficiently through preservation, restoration of its essential basic structures and functions. And this is what we do in capacity development, that not only one level, all levels, all sectors, all disciplines need to join hands together at any time so that we can reap the benefits of our disaster risk reduction and resilience. And these are maps available, informations are available, but we have to use these maps and empower them. So various list out the hazards that you face, and these are the websites that you can consult for getting more information about disaster. Because we are bound with the time, I'm closing it here. I saw this stone on a crossroad in Japan, and if you remove this cross stone in any direction, it will quickly regain its position. In Japan, they say we are prone to tsunami, earthquake, landslide, avalanches, volcanoes. So our society actually has to learn to live with such hazards and also recover from them as quickly as possible, like this stone. So they put it on a crossroad as a social symbol of resilience against disaster situations. We also have to learn and develop such symbols. And you cannot do it alone until you build partnership with all local communities, with the respective disaster management authorities, line departments, and your industry partners and collaborators and local others. So our dream is to build a disaster-free and resilient India. Thank you very much. If any questions, I would be happy to take. Thank you, Anilji.
Thank you, sir, for your
Raju, thank you.
presentation. Like sir said, we have to focus on recognizing risk and hazard surrounding our workplace and evaluate risk at different levels, and also try to strengthen our coordination and cooperation to overcome those hazards. And thank you very much, sir, for presentations. As we don't have any questions, but if there are questions, sir, I will definitely let you know, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So now moving ahead with our program, we have with us Mr. Anil Kathet, young professional, Center for Area Development, Geometeorological Risk Management Division, National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, who will be talking in a plan and template. He is postgraduate in geology with over 8.5 years of experience in the field of landslide hazard disaster management. Prior to joining NIDM, he has also worked with some of the prestigious organizations such as UNDP, NIUA, and CRRI. He has already penned down more than 20 research publications on various aspects of landslide hazard mitigation and management, and contributed in drafting the engineering guideline on landslide mitigation measures for Indian roads. With these words, I would like to pass on the stage to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raju. My PPT is visible.
Yes, sir. Your PPT is visible and audible too. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, a very good morning to all the participants. And I will be discussing National Disaster Management Plan as well as the draft template for preparing the disaster management plan. But before that, as per the mandate, it's my responsibility to remind you all that COVID pandemic is not over, and our battle against the COVID-19 pandemic is also not over. We are gradually coming to our old routines, but we need not to forget that there is no vaccine, no drug to counter COVID-19 pandemic, so there should be no place for carelessness. I, on behalf of National Institute of Disaster Management, request you all to kindly follow all the precautionary measures for COVID-19, like practice good hand hygiene, wash hand with soaps, water frequently, especially after you have been in a common area or after blowing your nose, coughing or sneezing. If a soap is not available, then you can use alcohol-based sanitizer. Or don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice good respiratory hygiene, use of face cover, mask, falling cough etiquettes, and avoid spitting in public places. Don't use mask for more than 8 hours, and maintain physical distancing and proper cleaning of frequently touched surfaces. Now coming to the topic of my talk. When we talk about the history of disaster management at international level, then the very first action plan adopted at international level was Yokohama Strategic Plan that was adopted in 1994 for natural disaster prevention, preparedness, and mitigation, and that was endorsed by UN General Assembly. Further, in 2005, Hugo Framework for Action was devised, which was the global blueprint for disaster risk reduction efforts between 2005 to 2015. But it was the year 2015 that was remarkable in the history of disaster risk reduction. As in this year, Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, Sustainable Development Goals, and the Paris Agreement were globally adopted. This international strategies agreement was to blueprint to reduce unbearable losses due to recurring disasters phenomena across the world. India, being one of the highly disaster-prone countries in the world, has always been on its toe to confront the challenges posed by a number of disasters. In India, DM Act 2005 and the National Policy on Disaster Management 2009 marks the institutionalization of paradigm shift in disaster management from a relief-centric approach to one of the proactive prevention, mitigation, and preparedness approach. And to carry forward the inheritance of Disaster Management Act 2005 and National Policy on Disaster Management 2009, and to shoulder the current global best practices in the world. National Disaster Management Plan was formulated in the year 2016, and with a vision to make India disaster resilient across all sectors, achieve sustainable and inclusive disaster risk reduction by building local capacities, starting with the poor and decreasing significantly the losses of lives, livelihoods, and assets in different forms, including economic, physical, social, cultural, and environmental, while enhancing the ability to cope with disaster at all levels. So the National Disaster Management Plan covers disaster management cycle for all types of disaster, whether it is natural or human-induced disasters. It heightened vulnerabilities to disaster risk can be treated to increasing population, urbanization, industrialization, development within high-risk zones, environmental degradation, and climate change. The plan provides a framework and directions to all the government departments, agencies for all phases of disaster management cycle that are mitigation, prevention, and risk reduction, preparedness, response, recovery, immediate restoration, and build back better. It was the national uh, world's first national plan that was lined up with Sendai framework 2015, and it was revised. The plan was first released in 2016, but it was recently revised in year 2019 and integrating additionality of Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, Paris Agreement, and as well as our Honorable Prime Minister 10-point agenda on DRR. And the very first point of the Prime Minister 10-point agenda on DRR also advocate to mainstream DRR in uh, all activities of development. Mainstreaming DRR activities in development planning can help in effective distribution of resources towards the protection of life and assets, restoration of productive systems, livelihoods, regaining market access, rebuilding social and human capital, as well as physical and psychological health. This will ensure that development projects, whether they are infrastructure of hydrocarbon sectors or airports, roads, canals, or hospitals or schools, that all are built to appropriate standards and contribute to the resilience of the community they are seek to serve. We need to ensure that we build it to best available standards of disaster safety. Another important point that was highlighted in PM's 10-point agenda was to leverage technology to enhance the efficiency of disaster risk management efforts. The use of technology in mapping, vulnerability assessment, disaster response, as well as preparedness, early warning system can enhance the efficiency of disaster management. As well as the 9-point of Prime Minister 10-point agenda on DRR is very important as it stress on make use of every opportunity to learn from disaster and to achieve that there must be studies on lessons after every disaster. Every success story as well as failures hold valuable important lessons for future. Disaster brings surprises and important lessons. They are actually a learning process. The systematic knowledge gained from past catastrophic events can guide us to policies and practice that will help in developing the better understanding of all the dimensions of the disaster management, and thus will also help in reducing the risk of loss of lives, properties, as well as our natural resources. The activities that are mentioned in the framework of National Disaster Management Plan are grouped under overlapping time frames, concluding by 2022 for short term and 2027 for medium term and for 2030 long term. The national plan provides a framework and direction to governments, cross-sectoral departments, agencies under 6 thematic areas for each hazard. And these thematic areas are classified as understanding the risk. That is also the first priority in the Sendai framework. Further, the sub-thematic areas under the understanding the risk include observation, that was information system, research, forecasting, zoning, map, warning, hazard, vulnerability, capacity, risk, vulnerability, and capacity assessment, as well as a dissemination of warning data and information. The next thematic area is interagency coordination, a key component of strengthening the disaster risk governance. It is priority 2 of the Sendai framework. And undertaking necessary structure measures is one of the thematic area for DRR and enhancing resilience. This consists of various infrastructures and facilities that are required to help communities cope with disasters. The implementation of these measures is essential to enhance the disaster preparedness. That is also a component of Sendai framework. component of priority 4 of Sendai framework, and it is also an important component of investing in disaster risk reduction for resilience, which is priority 3rd of Sendai framework. Further, investing in disaster measures. These non-structural measures consist of laws, norms, rules, guidelines that empowers authorities to enhance disaster resilience. The next thematic area is for capacity development, and capacity development is a recurring theme in all DRR efforts. The capacity development includes training programs, curriculum development, large-scale awareness programs, awareness creation efforts, and carrying out regular mock drills, disaster response exercise. The capabilities to implement, enforce, monitor various disaster mitigation measures must improve at all levels, from the local to the higher levels of the governance. It is also strengthening the strengthening the DRR governance at all levels to manage risk and to make the governance system more responsive. And the last thematic area is climate change risk management. Climate change is significantly alters the geographical spread, frequency, and intensity of weather-related extreme events. As the impact of climate change are increasingly felt, more financial, technical resources will be needed to support vulnerable people to adapt to the negative impacts of the disasters. So planning for DRR must be informed by the likely impact of climate change and its scenarios. These are the nodal ministries for management and mitigation of different disasters, like Avalanche, Avalanche, Ministry of Defense and Border Road Organization are the nodal ministries, and for biological emergency, biological emergency is looked after by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, as in current case COVID-19 pandemic was looked after by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. For 20 disaster, different ministries are accountable to reduce their impacts. In addition to develop their departmental plan, nodal ministries are also responsible to develop a plan to address how to deal with disaster for which it is designated as nodal ministry, and prepare a holistic plan for that particular disaster. Further, government has also designated specific agencies to monitor the onset of different natural disaster and set up adequate early warning system and designate necessary warning alerts regarding any impending disaster, and for all those hazards where early warning and monitoring is possible with the current available technologies and methods. And further, these agencies provide inputs to Ministry of Home Affairs, which issues alerts, warnings through various communication channels. Now, talking about the disaster management template that is developed by National Disaster Management Authority for ministries and departments. As per the section 37 of Disaster Management Act 2005, every ministry and its department of Government of India is mandated to have a disaster management plan that is aligned with the National Disaster Management Plan. So NIDM has drafted a disaster management plan template for ministries and departments. It is divided into two parts. Part one is about national component, and second part is about contingency plan for ministry and department. Part one is divided into 12 sections, 12 headings. First one is preliminaries, and that includes profile of the ministry that describe mandate, domain of the activities, whether the ministry or department has any particular nodal responsibilities for disaster. Scope of what is the scope of plan, what is the vision of the plan, and activities that should be cataloged in time frame, like it was in National Disaster Management Plan for a short period, for medium period, and for a long term. As per National Disaster Management Plan, ministries, departments need to be briefly deliberate upon rationally of the plan and other basic information. And this will help in understanding of the purpose of the plan and also what are the expectations from all those concerned. The plan will not be limited to any one office. It is rather for whole of the ministry department to ensure disaster risk reduction for all concerned and to ensure effective delivery mechanism at the time of any disaster at all levels. The second point in the template is about hazard risk vulnerability capacity analysis that was already taken by Professor Surya Prakash. And this is for effective planning purpose. It is important and first step to understand our strength as well as what are our weakness and threats we are prone to. So each ministry and department should make provision for hazard, for risks, vulnerability, and capacity analysis as a part of the plan. The third one is about hazard-specific prevention and mitigation measures. Following the HVCR, hazard risk vulnerability and capacity analysis, every ministry and department must formulate certain action plans for mitigation and better preparedness against each of the disaster it may be prone to. These hazards and interventions for risk reduction need to be prioritized based on their severity and the vulnerability of ministry and department to those disasters. Hazard-specific national disaster management guidelines can also be referred for the preparation of specific prevention and mitigation measures. There are a number of guidelines that are devised by National Disaster Management Authority for a wide range of disasters. The fourth one is mainstreaming DRR. Mainstreaming DRR is also, I said, also highlighted in the Honorable Prime Minister 10-point agenda that highlighted that there is need to mainstream DRR in each and every development or related activity. So ministries and departments also conduct various development programs and projects. So for sustainability of their development gains, mitigation, preventions to become part of and integrated into the development process, which is a mainstream DRR in development activities. Fifth is inclusive DRR. So disasters do not discriminate, but still there are some sections of the society which are more vulnerable to disasters due to their additional physical or social or economic or other type of vulnerabilities. Therefore, the plan should identify and address the concerns of these more vulnerable sections of the society to make the plan inclusive. Sixth one is occurrence of disaster risk management across resilient development and climate change action. A disaster could set back decades of development, and it is also thus it is necessary to make to incorporate the development disaster resilient. Anthropogenic climate change alters the pattern or of the hydrometeorological extremes, which in turn aggravate the impact of resulting disasters. Therefore, globally there is at global level there is emphasis on a comprehensive approach towards disaster risk management by thinking about the coherence by mutual reinforcement of various measures contributing to DRR across all development agenda, disaster risk management agendas, and the steps to address climate as well as the steps to address the climate change. So each ministry and department must strive for coherence and reinforcement for all efforts for disaster risk reduction. The seventh point is capacity development and communication. Once the plan is formulated, there is need to have and build a capacity capacity that is required for institutional and human resources. Ministry should have regular schedule of such capacity building measures, as well as communication. Communication plays a very important role in plan implementation and management of disaster. So there will be need for both internal as well as external communication with other stakeholders, with other departments during various phases of disaster management. So 8th point talk about the coordination that should be horizontally and vertically linkage. So disaster management is a multi-dimensional, multi-level, and multi-stakeholder issues, and hence it would require horizontal as well as a vertical linkage with all concerned stakeholders, and also coordination with the state governments for effective implementation of the plan. And ninth is about preparedness and response. Timely and properly deployment of human resources and sequencing of actions to be taken can make a response effective. So this should be clearly spelled out in the response plan. And the transmission of and receiving the audio a big difference. So the plan needs to be clearly laid down, structural and procedural details of early warning with clear laid down responsibilities and formats that should be used. Point number 10 is about recovery and reconstruction. And end of the response is not end of the responsibilities. There are a lot of activities and actions that need to be initiated and taken up following the end of response phase. The required actions along with roles, responsibilities of the concerned stakeholders should be clearly laid down in the plan for recovery and reconstruction phases also. 11th is about budgetary provision. As a plan and a disaster management can't be successful without suitable budgetary provision. So budgetary provision should be made for different activities and for different phases of disaster management in the plan. And last one is plan management. A plan has to be a dynamic and action-oriented document. Hence, it would be required to be updated and to improve on regular basis. A system of its development, approval, implementation, review, revision should be clearly laid down in the plan. It is also important to learn from each disaster. Disaster results in many best practices and lessons learned. This should be carefully documented and preserved for future references. And the part second of the disaster management plan template is about emergency contingency, business contingency plan for internal for own ministries own internal. It includes institutionalization arrangement for a response and incident command system for prevention mitigation of disaster, for preparedness, for ensuring business continuity of the ministry department, and as well as for monitoring and recovery phases. So that's all from my side. Over to you, Raju.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation about the NDFP. And like sir said, the aim of the it has to be able
Raju, your voice is
all
breaking.
level by integrating disaster risk reduction into development and
Raju, your voice is breaking.
okay,
You
sir.
can
Just,
switch off your.
is it okay, sir? Now,
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah. Better.
like I was saying, sir, the plan take like sir has highlighted that this plan take into account the global trend in disaster management, like incorporating the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction 2015-30, which is an agreement under the UN to which India is also a signatory. So, sir, there is one question, sir. Like, is the approval of disaster management plan compulsory? And if yes, who has the authority to approve the disaster management plan developed by any department?
As I mentioned in my talk that as per Section 37 of the Disaster Management Act 2005, every Ministry and Department of Government of India is mandated to prepare a plan and to forward a copy of that their disaster management plan to a National Disaster Management Authority for its approval. and when the disaster management is for office and units that are under the control of a particular ministry or department, that shall be approved by their respective ministries and departments, ensuring that it is aligned with disaster management plan.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your response, and thank you, sir, for your presentation. Now, for our next presentation, we have with us Shri Ved Prakash Mahavarji, former Director ONGC, who will be enlightening us on mainstreaming DRR in development activities. Sir is presently Board of Governor, Acting Chairman of IIM Rohtak. He retired in 2018 as Director of India's biggest oil and gas Maharatna upstream company, ONGC New Delhi, and OMPL, ONGC Petrochemical Limited, Mangalore. He is also advisor to Green Tech Foundation, New Delhi, and is an ex-chairman of the SPE Delhi chapter. He is the president of SESPRO, the Society of Health, Environment, Safety and Sustainability Professional, New Delhi. He has 36 years of vast experience in public sector undertaking, and with his dynamic, bold decision-making and visionary approach, he was selected as the director of ONGC by. And for the knowledge of the attendance, participant, I would like to add that recently in August 2020, he has played a very key role in capping a blown out well in Baghjan field of Oil India in Assam. With these words, I would like to pass on the stage to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Raju. Thank you very much. I think we have a lot of good information about me. Friends, actually, my presentation, which I am going to talk of DRR, which is very important, and I'll touch upon the practical points in DRR, because a lot of things are written, we read all these things, but I think if you see in practical what are the difficulties we face and what kind of decisions we have to take in that conditions, those I will discuss in my presentation. So I would like to share my presentation with you all. I think you are able to see my presentation now. Is it visible to all?
No, sir, you haven't shared anything.
Yes, sir.
Not shared?
No, sir, you haven't shared anything.
Just 1 minute. Let me see why it is not shared. Okay, share. Now I think it should be coming. Is it okay now?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Okay. Let me remove this screen first. It's coming on the way. So my presentation is basically, first of all, I'd like to thank NIDM and Indian Oil Corporation for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. I think I'm seeing that about 36 participants are there. So mainly I'll talk about the practical points, how the DRR plays an important role in reduction of disasters and mitigating the disaster in time, or that will be my basic focus. Because I was associated with Jaipur Fire also, for your kind information, because at that time I was head of the crisis management of ONGC based at Ahmedabad. So my team, I visited there with my crisis management team and the team of fire, and unfortunately we pulled out 2 burnt bodies also from there. So if anybody has any question on anything, I am open for that, and I'll give my mail address also and mobile number. If anybody wants to talk to me, I am very open to that. So what do you mean by mainstreaming of DRR? It is the integration of disaster risk reduction measures into development, planning and activities. Not only the planning and activities also, the DRR mainstreaming, if you talk about, it should be planning as well as you have to do mainstreaming also. So that activities also should speak about that, yes, these are there. So I have divided this main activities in three parts. So first is prevention, mitigation of hazards. Number two is reduction of vulnerabilities of hazard. And number three is strengthening capabilities to withstand or cope with the hazard, whether we are there or what are the things required, why these things are important. So I will talk about that. Now, for the effective response in disaster reductions, if you see in any of the disaster, the initial action is very, very important. Whether it's a fire or whether it's any disaster, whether it's a flood or tsunami, whatever it is, the initial action is very, very important for saving the life of the people. And whenever we are designing this disaster management plan, the first thing we should keep in mind that how we can warn our people and how we can quickly respond. So for that, society is to be made resilient, and I think this DRI talks about that. So we'll be discussing in later stage what is to be done and how it can be done. Number two is a prompt warning to employees to evacuate or shelter can save life. Why I'm talking about employees, because we are talking about Indian Oil Corporation, so that's why I'm talking about employees. Otherwise, if it is a disaster of different nature, so we have to see the localities nearby and people are to be saved. So how we can warn them? So this system should be there. So now you might have seen that Government of India is doing a lot of work for that. And if you've seen any of the disaster, the loss of life is very, very minimal, because the warning signs, prompt warning has been improved. So these are the learnings which you have, and that is the reason that the disasters, the effect of the disaster has been reduced quite considerably. Now, another thing which is important is any disaster which is happening or any incident which is happening, if you are not giving the correct information, then it is very difficult. So if you are giving a correct information, so you can get the right kind of services in time. That is important, in time. And the people who can handle that kind of situation, who are trained to handle that kind of situations, that will also reach in time. So my friend, you all have to keep in your mind that the information which is being passed about the incident is very, very important. So you get the right people and at the right time. So that is another thing which is for the effective DRR, this is important. The thing is knowledge of the process. Suppose the people have reached, the equipments have been reached in time, but the person, the information which needed, now you have to go in detail of the plant and things. So if a person who is there and he is not able to explain what are the process, how the process area is, how we can reach to the process area, so that will be also a very difficult situation, because sometimes what happens when we are handling the disasters, the escape route of the person is very, very, very important. I can say, if you see in case of the Bagjan, we lost 2 of our fire people. The reason behind it is only one, because they did not follow the escape route. We made escape route. In case of any emergency, you follow that escape route. But unfortunately, they thought if we jump in the pond which is nearby, we can pass through that, because it's only 4 feet of water. But they were not knowing that below that there's some loose soil there where they got stuck, and they were out of the sight from where the fire was there. But unfortunately, because of the drowning, we lost those 2 brave young people. So I think we have to see that a person who is known for that area is associated with the team who is handling any of the disasters. So that is another very, very important thing which everyone has to keep in their mind. The response competencies for vulnerability of hazard, I have again divided in the 3 parts in this one also. The primary response, incident reporting, and secondary response. These all 3 are very, 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 very important things which I have put in this for the building of competencies. The primary response is the warning sign. How we can warn the people, not only in case of our emergencies in the factories or in the process plant or the pipeline, but also it is in general the people living around, and if you have any kind of disasters, how the warning signs are very, very important, and people should be told that these are the warning signs. If you see these warning signs, you hear these alarms, what is to be done, it is to be told very clearly to the person working in the factory or in the premises or the process area. Another thing important is incident reporting. We have seen the reporting of incident. There should be an information chart. Everyone should know that, yes, this is my duty, to whom I have to inform. It's not like that everybody start informing a person who is responsible. No, the person who is designated should inform in case of the incident. So the reporting chart should be prepared, so the person who is there near the disaster, how he has to or she has to inform, where, and from there how the information will travel. So that is another important thing in DRR. And the secondary response is right information. When the disaster has happened, then the secondary response comes into the picture. So I'll talk about the secondary response later. Let us see what is in that. The competencies from primary response. Now, for the primary response, people, what kind of competencies are required? Number one is location abandoned if needed. The people should be trained that, yes, whether this is vulnerable and we have to remove the people from the site, what kind of preparedness we have, what kind of things are in the plan, whether these are in place or not. So that is thing which should be seen, and that should be a part of the action plan which we are making. Search, rescue and recovery. That is another important thing, because we have seen in case of Jaipur fire, we pulled out 3 bodies and people could not recognize them. So this is not a right kind of thing. If a person in a process facility, everyone should know, or the in charge or at the gate, person should know how many people have entered these facilities and where they are being deployed. So that record should always be there. In case of UCC, I've just given an example. In case of Baljan, we had a card system. If a person is with the red card, he is allowed to go anywhere, and there was another card, they were not allowed to go inside. And anybody entering the site, he has to put his or her card on the board, so no person knows that who are the people inside. So that is very, very important, so that you can save the life and you know that how many people are there in our plant or the process facilities or the disaster site. So that makes you the rescue and recovery easy, and you can plan accordingly. Another thing you're saving, then another is protection of facilities. That is another thing, because in oil industry, if you see, all the equipments which you are using are very costly equipments. So how we can save those facilities which are there in place? So the process safety is already there, and it's a part of the DRR, but I'm not going to talk about the process safety, but that to some extent can help you to reduce, to protect the facilities. So we should know that what is to be done, where we have to spray water, whether we have to isolate the tanks, or we have to move the equipment if possible. Like in case of Bagjan, the one crane was there stuck and we pulled, and you will see, you will not believe, there were 30 people who were pulling that crane out of the site. So this kind of things, the protection of the facilities and the equipment which are there is another important things which we should see, that kind of facilities should be there and should be well documented in our disaster management plan, that yes, these are the equipments will be required in case of this kind of this type of emergencies. So that is another important thing. And the spraying of water, yes, because we all are handling the inflammable material, whether it will be petrol, diesel, or HSD, whatever you call about, all are very vulnerable to fire. So normally we use water systems, sprinkling of water is there. If you can use that water in time, definitely you can protect your facilities. But if you take time and the system is not working properly, then you will have a different scenario. Like in Jaipur, the fire was there, the tanks were burning for a long time, and the decision was taken, let us douse this fire. Then we had people with the management, and we said we can't douse this fire right now because almost 25% of the tank fuel has been burned and it is red hot. If you put water in it, it will make a fume, and this fume will make a cloud, and this cloud can burst and this can damage the tanks. So friends, there you have to take a right decision at the right time, that yes. So in that case, the decision was taken that let us dig a pit around those tanks, so in case the tank bursts, this fuel which is there in the tank will not go to the nearby area, because nearby there was population, people were living. So the military was called, they dug the pit, and although it was not required, we could not use those pits, but for the safety reason, because we did not wanted the people to get hurt, so that was prepared and made. So these are the things, facilities, how you can protect the facilities, and how you have to act at the time of disaster. First aid and trauma centers, these are to be identified in case if something happens. Like nowadays, if you see the government, and I think NIDM and NDMA, they are working on it, that in case, if you see the Orissa cyclone in '99, what has happened and now, so there was a lot of difference. There, at that time, we lost about 10,000 people, but now only few, it was not even a triple digit, only in double digit. So because the first aid center, trauma centers, shelters, everything was ready. The right time the warning was given. A similar thing we have to see in case any disaster happen in our process facilities, then where the person is to be taken, it should be identified and should be well documented. Everybody should know that yes, where this person is to be taken in case if it is a burn injury, where it will go. If it is another injury, the things will be gone, because the burns are to be treated differently. So this is another the competency which is to be there and to be developed within people. The incident reporting mechanism, that is also very important, because nowadays media is very, very powerful. They will try to find out all negative things. I'm very openly saying that because I have faced this in one of the blowout. We were doing everything, the ONGC was doing everything for the community, but they said what they are not doing, you tell us those things. So that kind of mentality people have. So we all have to be very careful in that. What our government is doing, what our companies are doing, that is to be only told. What negativity, there should not be, there is no place for the negativity about any of the incident. Yes, the lesson should be learned, but no negativity. If you are not knowing about the incident, if you are knowing half about the incident, please don't tell anybody. So the reporting in the company should be done by only an authorized person, not by everybody. So please, this is to be told to each and every employee that this is not your duty to talk to the authorities for which you are not authorized. So my friend, this is to be followed very strictly if you want that your company to function properly, handle the disaster properly. So this is another important thing. So how to report to with the government authorities, regulatory authorities, and media. It's very, very important. So there should be only, I have written in the line in the external reporting should be through single window, that is through head of projects only. I have given the head of projects, but that can be identified, that the competent person can be identified, and he or she can be assigned for this job. So this is one how the flow information can be. It's a one chart which I have given. With this, you can just make another chart based on the situation in your company, how the hierarchy is there in the companies. So accordingly, you can just make. I've just given a simple how the communication channel should be and how the things should be informed. So this is another. Now the secondary response I'm talking about, strengthening capability to cope with the hazards. That is another very, because we know that in which place we are working and what kind of conditions we are working. With our previous experiences and the learnings from the different disasters, so we make a action plan for the specific. So why I'm taking specific emergency, if emergencies happen, all the emergencies will not be similar, but these emergencies which are happening will definitely give us some feedbacks from the different incidents which has happened, that what we can do initially, what are the things, and with the information provided, what are the action we can take to mitigate this hazard, or how we can handle the disaster which has happened. Now, another thing is evacuation of action plan. Sorry, execution of action plan. So when we make an action plan, how we are going to execute. Suppose you are executing a plan, and just I'm telling you, like so Jaipur was a big fire. We had two teams working. One team was working on the tank area, other team was in the process area, and we decided something that this is to be done. And if you find that whatever has been discussed outside is not matching with what you are seeing there, don't do anything from your side, because you are not authorized to do that, or you are not that much knowledgeable to do anything on that wall. Suppose somebody said, no, let us see, we'll close this wall. No, don't do that, because you don't know, because closing of that wall, what impact it will have. The process person who knows about the area should be with this, with whom we have to discuss, and then the next action is to be taken. So normally in the field, suppose you are working with 2 or 3 teams, it is happening, because it's not like that only one team will be working, 2 or 3 teams are working. So there's a very clear instruction given to them. If you find any difference or anything which is not happening as per the plan, once the other 2 teams see that our team is coming out, they will also come out, and then come out, discuss, and again go back and do the job. That should be the approach. Please don't do anything which you feel is right at that time. Everything which you are doing should be as discussed, as planned. Not so we can change the plan, the modification can be done. So identification, modification, mobilization of resources. So what are the resources required mainly for firefighting? Fire tenders are there. So which are the fire tenders, where the fire tenders are available? This all information should be available. Whether the state fire agencies are there, they can be called, and who is the responsible person to whom we have to call. These all resources which are available nearby, or sometimes pooling of resources is also done. In case of Bagjan, if I talk about a lot of equipments, we got it from ONGC, we got it from military also. So where are the equipments are available, we have pooled those resources and use those resources. Another thing, monitoring of progress. Definitely, once you do make a plan and you start monitoring this. Suppose a plan is made and they say it is about 2 weeks time or 3 weeks time. So you can decide every day or morning, evening, you can do that, or in 2 days or in a weekly. So this should be, the progress should be monitored. So when you monitor the progress, you see what are the deviations from the plan and why these deviations are there. And with those deviations, you can take the corrective actions. That is happening many times, because I have handled about 36 blow. When we go to the site, we have been told that this is the equipment which is available, and as per the information given to us, we start doing our preparation and start doing the action. When we start doing action, we found that there's something else happening, and when we start analyzing that the information which was given is wrong. So that should not happen, my friend. You please, I think you should see that the right information is given so you can mitigate any of the incident in time, which is important. So you can save life, you can save property, you can save environment. The corrective measures, yes. Under corrective measures, how we have to take the corrective measures, that is also important, and that only will come when you will start monitoring the progress. Once you monitor the progress, if something is not happening as per the plan, what are the things required or any other equipments are required? Like in Bagjan, we said we will cap the well on 11 inch, we capped the well, but we could not kill the well because there was a leakage in wellheads. So that kind of thing is happening. So the plan was changed. Swimming unit was brought and the swimming was done and well was killed. So these kind of corrective actions are needed, and that will only happen when you start monitoring properly and discuss with the people. So that is another important thing. Why disaster resilience is important? Yeah, this is the reason why it is important. If you have good DRR in place, disaster management plan in place, this kind of things will not happen, or you can minimize the damage. If you see the other side, the damage is huge. But if you have a good disaster management plan in place, risks are being covered and addressed properly, so this kind of disaster will not happen. Because here I will just give one example. In ONGC, when I became head of the crisis management, I was number 2 there. Every year we are finding 1 or 2 blowouts happening. The wells is blowing and things are doing like that. So when we started analyzing the things, we found that yes, there is some issue with the training of the people, communication problem. So we started addressing those things, and we set up a world-class, well-controlled school in IDT. And at that time, I was in Institute of Drink Technology, Dehradun. We set up that school, and after that school has set up and people were trained, these incidents were reduced drastically. About the incident reduction was to the tune of about 70 to 75%. So now you can see that how important is this DRR, disaster reduction. These are things are important. Now, the major tools for strengthening response competencies, the major tools are, number 1 is the regular training, which is very, very important. Sometimes we train people, we said, oh, this person was trained 5 years back, no need to send the person again. No, it's not like that. When you go for any of the training, you will not learn 100%. Friend, it is proved again and again, because I was in this profession, I was in institute, so I know that if you are training a person, he can retain 10, 20, 30, 40%, not 100%. So the training and retraining is, again, it's a regular, the training should be regular. You can see that the person can be trained in 2 years or 3 years, like the course which we started in Institute of Drilling Technology, we issue a certificate there, and that certificate is valid only for 2 years. So after 2 years, person has to again come for that training. So few things you revise and you share your knowledge also with the other colleagues who are with you. So these regular trainings are very, very important. We must do it if you want that reduction, disaster reduction. If you want, then definitely this is it's a 100% tool, a good tool which can reduce the disasters. Now the practical exposure and drill. Another important thing, drills. We are doing drills. Sometimes I have seen people say, "Arey, yaar, to drill hai, kya niche jana hai? Why I should go?" Suppose the earthquake drill has been organized in your building. You're not in the building. So sometimes I know it is a drill. No, that kind of mindset we should come out of. If drill is there, one has to run like it is happened in real. Then only that kind of seriousness or the importance of this DRR or DRM will be there. Otherwise, if this kind of mindset anybody has, please come out of that. Please come out of that. Why I'm talking this? Because I have seen, I'm visiting a plant, very vulnerable plant. I know that a lot of gases and a lot of inflammable materials are there. And we will be briefed at the gate that mobiles are not allowed. You can't take this or you can't take that. Matchsticks are not allowed. Cigarettes not allowed. Everything is there. So what you will do? You watch your whatever you have within you, you will leave your mobile there and go inside. And all of a sudden, when the person is talking, you'll see his or her mobile is ringing. So if that kind of attitude with you are working, this is not correct. Please make sure whatever you do it seriously. Otherwise, this kind of incident will happen and you can't avoid those. Whatever is being done, please do it very seriously. It's not your life, it's the life of the person working with you is important for you. You may not be caring about your life, but we can't take the life of anybody else who is working with us. So this should be always kept in the mind, my friend. So the drills when you are conducting should be done very meticulously, and it should be planned as it is done in real. So that is another. And the communication skill, how you communicate, that is another important thing. Communication is a very big tool for a success of anything happening in the world. Because if your communication is not correct, things may go wrong. So you should be very clear while communicating. And sometimes I've seen, so we can do this or that or that. See, there's no probabilities there. You should talk in definite terms. वो क्या है, ये हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे, ये चीजें हम अपने दिमाग में ना रखें. मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में बोल रहा हूँ आप लोगों को, क्योंकि ये सब भाषण नहीं है, ये हमको करना है. So this is to be done and this is to be done like this. And that should be there and that kind of communication should be there. ये नहीं कि साहब वो ठीक है तुम जैसा है वैसा कर लो. No, the person working there should be told this is to be done and this is how it is to be done. And if you don't understand, again talk to me, we will clarify. So there should not be any communication gap anywhere when we are handling any of the disaster. Another important thing is a teamwork. If you are not a good team player, if you think that I know everything, other person don't know, friend, one thing is very clear that everybody in the team contributes. Maybe the contribution of a person can be 1%, another person can be 20%. Sorry, everybody is important in the team. Sometimes when you start discussing the things in a team, the person, you feel that he may not be having some idea, can give a good idea. So please have a good team and have that kind of mindset that you become a very good team player, so the disaster can be mitigated safely without any problem. So friend, I can just talk here one thing. I have handled about 24 blowouts without a single injury to anybody, not even a scratch to anybody. So this kind of a thing should be there. I have seen one thing, if you follow the safety, you work with a team, as a team player, you will find the progress is better than the haphazard manners if you're doing something. So friends, this is a practical experience I'm talking about. Follow all the safety norms. The confidence within the person who is working will be different if you see that. I think whether you have experienced or not, I have experienced that a person has a good knowledge about the subject, has been trained properly, has a different confidence than a person who has been not trained properly or is not taken things seriously. So this teamwork is another important thing. These are the practical things which I'm talking about. And another thing is physical fitness. Yes, physical fitness is required because in this kind of environment, if you're working, you have to be physically fit, mentally fit, because your mental strength should be such that, yes, if I'm going to this situation, These are the safety things which are with me. Suppose, again, I'll talk here about the Jaipur fire. When we were talking to the people, why are not going inside? There may be some people trapped inside because there was talk going on. Yes, लगता है सर कुछ लोग अंदर फंस गए हैं. तो हमने कहा भाई जब आप why you are not going in, then why you are not trying to. So we don't know how to go in this kind of situation with so big fire, tanks are burning. But we had an experience, my team was having an experience with the water umbrella. We went inside and we pulled out the bodies. So this is a kind of thing which is, so once you are mentally and physically fit and trained properly, you can do this job. It's not like that, friend. The work cannot be done. We are there to work. It's not like that. If I can't do it, this other person, no, everybody can do it. If somebody else who is coming from outside and doing for us, why we cannot do it? That kind of approach should be there. There's nothing which is impossible. There are everything which can be done by we people who are working in the field, and the only thing is we have to be very careful in all these strength which I am talking about, competencies I am talking about. You have these competencies, you may build up these competencies. I can assure you any disaster can be handled properly with the minimum loss to the life, property, and the environment. So with this, friend, I'm going to end my presentation. I'd like to thank all of you for listening carefully to me, because I normally talk a little loudly because I have a passion for crisis, because I love this job, and I have in my 36 of career years of career, about 8 years I was in crisis management. I was seeing operations and crisis management also. So I have been not only in India, because ONGC is operating outside also. I have been to other countries also to handle this kind of.
Hello, Ved sir. Mahavar sir.
So with this, I end my.
Hello. Mahavar sir ji. We will try to get in touch, but we must thank him for his wonderful presentation, focusing on the mainstream DRR in development activities. With escalating disaster risk, particularly in petroleum sector, there is a growing consciousness that the key to sustained risk reduction lies in mainstreaming the risk reduction of risk into development. And sir, like high for DRR. And like sir has highlighted, capacity development is needed to build and maintain the ability of people, organization, and society to manage their risk and successfully themselves. And also, this require not only training and specialized technical assistance, like sir said, but also the strengthening of capacity of community and individuals to recognize and reduce risk in their surrounding. Thank you very much, sir, for your presentation. As of now, sir, there is no question, sir. So thank you very much, sir, for your for being with us, sir. Thank you very much. So now moving ahead for our last presentation, we have with us Sri Joydev Lahari ji, Chief Manager, Engineering and HSE Oil India Limited. Sir, I would like to open the stage for you, sir. Over to you, sir. Joydev Lahari sir ji. Very specific.
Yes, yes, I'm just loading my
Oh,
share.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
ऋषि आपका पूरा फोटो नहीं आ रहा है, आधा ला रहा है, खाली चश्मा दिख रहा है।
अच्छा, ये थोड़ा डाउन कर ले पड़ेगा।
हाँ, अभी पूरा दिख रहा है। दिखना चाहिए ना, आपका हंसता हुआ चेहरा दिख नहीं रहा था।
तो शेयर कहाँ से होगा ये अनिल? हाँ, शेयर मिला मिला मिला। दिखाई दे रहा है?
यस सर, दिखाई दे रहा है सर।
अच्छा, इसको फुल स्क्रीन करना पड़ेगा ना?
यस सर।
So if talking after Mahavar Sahib like a expert, it is I am just like a small fry to him, and the big touch just is I am just basically highlighting that kind of disasters oil and gas is having, and what kind of preparation in fact in the country is having, which Mahavar Sahib already told lot things, and I will highlight only the areas so that it is basically which we have seen that though it does not happen always in upstream, but it probably in 135, 36 years of operation, hardly 1 or 2 or 3 incidents might have happened. But when it happens so that our country is not, till date, is not in a position to tackle those for which we have to depend with the outsider. So that's what I wanted to establish here, what kind of things may happen and what kind of preparedness the country is having. So this is the oil and gas, having the legacy of this first oil well drilled in 1889 in Big Boy, and with that the petroleum industry started in India, in the independent India. So this is how the crude oil looks like, which is the coming from the underneath the surface. So oil and gas fires are most difficult because these are the enormous continuous fuel supply, and these fires are definitely different than normal fire because they are jets of flame from ignite high pressure, and there are also cases of vapor cloud explosion, which is a very common phenomena which happened to this GAIL pipeline in Andhra Pradesh, or many cases. Major fire is that also surface. For that can happen to midstream, upstream also. This is the global disasters, what has happened so far. This is the July 1988 Piper Alpha offshore fire. Killed 166 people, 167 people, and this is explosion of 6 July 1988. This was the Kuwait fire. It lasted for 11 months. So this is the Kuwait fire. So Gulf of Mexico fire of BP, the largest oil spill in the world. It happened on 20th April 2010, killing 11 workers. The largest marine oil spill in the world. This is 19th November 1984, the LPG terminal disaster in San Jacinto, one of the deadliest in the world history, killed 500 to 600 people. 6 of this type of spherical type LPG container exploded. So this is the thing. So the slide I will share with Anil, and he can share further with you. This is the San Francisco terminal fire. This is the cause and all analysis is there. This is how it happened. This is the cause for that. Sorry. So oil and gas industry is very important for Indian economy. It contributes about 15% to country's GDP. And this all yellow, green, red, and these are the Indian oil and gas basins. These are the basins where the explorations are taking place, and you'll find wherever the basins are there, close to that only the refineries are coming. So here are the refineries are spreaded. So here is the basins, and here you find the refineries. As on date, 23 refineries, 18 public sector, 3 under private, 2 in joint venture. And we are the world's 4th largest refiner. This is the oil gas industry is divided upstream, midstream, downstream. Upstream is the exploration, midstream is the processing tank fan, and the other tank manufacturing, refining, and marketing comes under downstream. This is the upstream activity, onshore, offshore. Where is the main cause is the Bagjan blowout you told. Like that, previously also we had another blowout in Wellhead, that is the Decom blowout In both the cases, we could extinguish the calling expert, and Mahavar Sahib was the key. Mahavar Sahib was the key and guide for us, and he was leading the whole operation. Mahavar Sahib. This is the oil storage tanks. The vapor cloud explosion is the biggest kind of threat in these areas. This is the processing terminals. This is the pictorial. This IOCL, since organizing this, they are quite familiar. It's just for the others I am bringing it. These are refinery installations. This is the transportation. Transportation can take place through pipeline, by road, by train, or by ship. These are the modes. There are also risks associated with that. These are the pipeline, oil gas pipelines network in the country. LPG processing plant. We also saw that earlier, the blast in that. The causes are mainly happening here: uncontrolled release of oil and gas, and dealing with how we are not well equipped, and occurrence of fire explosion for whatever may be the reason, the gas breaching into the surface or oil spillage from oil pipeline due to boom blast or natural calamity. These are the causes may lead to disaster. This one video is there. I'm not showing it now. This is the few scenario that the oil leakage. What we said now, prior to Bagjan, Oil India though had operation for 131 years. So we had another similar Bagjan kind of thing in DECOM 15 in 2005, which was continued for 20 days. And we had to call Messrs. Woods and Coots Houston. So this is the DECOM fires, that scenario of those days, 2005. After that, 8 January 1925, ONGC had a fire, Amrapuram. They got under control, lasted for 65 days, ONGC. Here also, they initially got Neil Adams system. Vapor cloud explosion, there is a boiling liquid explosion. How it happens is kind of a picture, just to understand. This is the vapor cloud, how it forms. That is the theory is given here, so you can later on see it. This is another fire in India. This is the Gale pipeline fire in Andhra Pradesh. Here also the vapor cloud explosion occurred. The leak happened somewhere, and it was the winter time, and this thing it was it went on somewhere and the cloud formed, and probably someone had ignited the villagers, and that explosion took place, and then it killed probably 11 people there. IOCL Jaipur fire, IOCL Mahavar Sahib also was part of it. It happened in 20 October 2009. After that, only the MBLAL committee's recommendations came, which all upstream, midstream, downstream all have implemented. This is ONGC Mumbai fire, 27 July 2005. This is the 2004 fire at Oil at Oil India. This was minor. This was well controlled within the time. This was not like DECOM or Bagjan. This was a fire at ONGC Uran plant, Mumbai, due to gas leakage. This is the one gas breaching incident. This is the happening in oil's case, because all wells are of say 1889 onwards. It is continuing production and or producing or not producing. The casings are got rusted or damaged, and some cases also due to the presence of high carbon dioxide also it is getting eroded. So then the gas starts coming here and there in the surrounding area from the tube oil, from the air. So this gas breaching one incident we had 2011 in well number Narkatia 285, we call it Deval. It is killed after 2-3 years. This is same gas breaching we experienced in Rajasthan, in Oil India's field in Rajasthan. There this thing has happened. Those wells are not old, but you see this is the corrosion has happened because there is a presence of high carbon dioxide. It happened in 2015 there. So this is another LPG tanker erosion in Chalakanur, Kerala. This is LPG got on fire in densely populated locality in Patna, hundreds exploded. This is the Bagjan fire what you are discussing. So this finally it got the blowout occurred 27 May 2020. Then the fire came in 9 June 20, and after 172 days the whale was finally killed on 15 November 2020, 5 months, 19 days. Probably this is the longest ever in anything. So this was not possible because this is a high pressure gas, and Mohammed Sahib has told a lot of time about Bagjan. He was there associated with it. This is the Bagjan site, some photos. This is another large crane came down crashing in Hindustan shipyard Vizag recently. This is a huge blast, massive fire when you see Hazira plant Surat, September 20. So like that, no pipeline also having some disasters or natural calamities like flood or due to man-made pipeline, I'm telling. So these are the pipelines. Oil India's pipeline has got the oldest pipeline in the country or in the Asia. It is the 1157 kilometer pipeline built in 1962 from Duliajan to Baruni in Bihar, passing through the state of West Bengal. So this pipeline had in 1968 in Tista River, you can see the bridge on the top. The water all of a sudden all came such high, it spared the 14-inch crude oil pipeline of oil as well 8-inch product pipeline of IOCL. So it was there for 24 days there was shutdown for oil pipeline and 27 days shutdown for IOCL pipeline. No feedback to Baruni refinery during those periods. Similar, there is a one Chel Furi, the Chel River. Because North Bengal rivers are very uncontrollable and unpredictable. So this happened to in same 1969, 1 year after the Tista. So now that they like that also flood it comes. It came say around all the engines, generator house. It came 5 feet, 6 feet height in Dumar in 1972 once. Then again it came in 1987. You see the inside the pump station. These are the calamities I say. It happens during that time. These are the man-made. This is the Disang crossing bomb blast by the terrorists. This is how it collapsed the suspension crossing. This is the original suspension crossing. You can see the extreme right corner and see after blasting what it happened. Like that, there was another blasting. They did it in 1926. Chalkhwa blasting. Here also, oil pipeline, 18-inch product pipeline, 16-inch crude oil loop line, all got smeared and no feeding to the Baruni refinery. This is a bomb blast at Saklatinga. This is a pipeline, other bomb blast by the terrorist group. And this is the global subsea leakage oil spillage history. You can see later on from the slide if I once shared. Our country is not well equipped to tackle well blowouts or well fires due to lack of experts. We need to call experts from abroad, implementing various special techniques detailed in subsequent slides. These are the techniques Mohammed Sahib knows. These are the say one called Big Wind, where they take the MiG-21 aircraft engine and tank and like that the things, the technologies they adopt in killing this kind of blowouts, like dynamite, devil cigarette. They use cafe wagon, raising the fume. These are the various techniques they adopted in India and abroad also. Nuclear explosion also is done, drilling relief wells, mechanical jaws, dowsing. These are the companies which are well known as of now, and there are more also. So these people are, we have to call them and seek their support. When they come, they are equipped with this kind of equipments, which I am showing now. This kind of all equipment they do possess. So there is a offshore fire also they tackle this way. So these all kind of things they do have. These are the all things I'm showing that how required, these are the equipment actually required for oil and gas sector. What action country has so far done? It is after the we have done the Jaipur fire. After Jaipur fire, there was a plan that to set up an emergency response center of petroleum sector. So then November 2014, there was a refinery terminal fire company in Texas, OSD team visited in November 20 and 22nd November. So in March 15, final report submitted after visit in Texas. For this emergency response center, what I am telling about emergency response center, May 16 meeting with MOPNG, again May 16 meeting with IOCL, BPCL, GAIL, advised to identify the place where 4 to 5 acres land available for building a 5 ERCs. September 16 meeting was organized in OPNG involving all the stakeholders. West Indian first pilot project was to execute a Avasil Hajira. Then Gujarat was decided. And the 5 after necessary survey. It was decision in September 16. September 16, EIL gave a presentation and it was decided to engage EIL for ERC project. January 19 report of Chairman Standing Committee Petroleum was published. And IOCL, and there it was decided IOCL set up at Jaipur, HPCL in Vizag, BPCL in Manmar, ONGC in Hazira, and GAIL in Dibbapur. Global PVT meeting was conducted, all those things happened. The ERC proposal can meet requirement. This ERC proposal after January 2019, it has not further taken any move to my knowledge. ERC proposal can meet the requirement of refineries process plant tank farm terminals, but oil blowout and welfare cannot taken. And presently, what the ERC plan has been done, it is done leaving northeast sector. It is for the other part of the country, which will take care of refinery upstream, midstream companies, not the upstream. And MBLR compliances, everybody known that we have done HBLR, RIMSEAL, all those double firefighting, all those. So these have been implemented. That HBLR we have been implemented total in the country 3026 number, automatic RIMSEAL fire protection 1312 number, hydrocarbon detector also installed, the fire water pump, medium expansion phone generator, all those are done. So now the lesson learned from the oil gas disaster is that non-availability of critical equipment and resource for tackling the scenario, crucial time lost in planning and arranging resources to tackle the situation, improper evaluation analysis and attacking the incident, failure to respond in time by the site in charge or other during occurrence of the incident, either absence of SOP or not adherence to SOPs, and propagating negative message in print and electronics media due to incompetent spokesperson selected. Which Mahawar Sahib also told that all should not speak. So this is the finally after disaster, this is the final outcome. It happens in the family front. Thank you. This much only.
Thank you very much, sir, for a wonderful presentation, detailed presentation on preparedness and disaster mitigation in oil sector, and showing and citing us so many examples that has taken place in the past, sir. Sir, right now, sir, there are no questions raised by the participants, sir. So I would like to thank you, sir, for your presentation. So there is no question to ask right now, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, one attendee want to ask a question to Mahawar sir.
Okay, sir. Yeah, you can go on, sir, for the questions.
I will unmute him.
हाँ जी बोलिए.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. I am Vijay Kumar. Yes, sir. I am working in.
मैंने आपको क्वेश्चन देखा, मैंने उसको रिप्लाई भी किया है.
Yes, sir.
I think you are talking about the DMPs. See, DMPs are being made definitely, but my sincere this thing is the follow these DMPs in totality is very, very important, because we see that the drills are conducted, which I mentioned in my presentation also, and the safety, which these are the two things which we should imbibe in our culture. See, like when I used to go to any of the field, I used to leave my mobiles in the vehicle itself. So that kind of culture should come within us, and the learnings from the disasters which has happened in past should be applied. It's not like that, ठीक हो तो हो गया, वो ऐसा दोबारा भी हो गया, no problem. But that should not happen. If that has happened, why it has happened, and it should not be repeated in future, that should always be taken into the consideration when we are making our DMPs. And scenarios which we can work out is based on the previous experiences, or anything which you can envisage based on those experience, can those kind of scenarios also can be built. So in case, suppose when we are going to the well fire, like in Baghjan, we went there, we thought there's no fire, we will have water, so we will not have a fire. But the quantity of water was not that sufficient, but it caught fire. So that kind of learnings will come only when we discuss these disasters like that we are doing right now, and these learnings are being implemented in our plans or reflected in our plans.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Anil sir, there is, I think, one more question from Ajay Kumar. Can you unmute? Hello, Anil sir.
Yeah.
I think, sir, Ajay Kumar sir has also raised hands. I think there is one question for
He hasn't raised his hand. He has just shown in.
Yes, sir. Yes, I got that. Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mahavar sir, for your question answer session also. Thank you, Lahari sir, also for your wonderful presentation. Sir.
Thank you. Yeah, Raju, I think mail address is vpmahavar@gmail.com and my mobile number is 9868282001.
Okay.
I have WhatsApp on that. If anybody has anything or anybody want to discuss with me, please give me a call or give me a message, so I'll respond to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us in technical session. Thank you, sir. So, okay, and sir, you have given me the okay, sir. So now moving ahead to the assignment part, today we have discussed about the HVCR. So just let me share one screen content. So today you will be given some assignment to do in the assignment section. So what you have to do is like Professor Surya Prakash has given a very detailed presentation about the hazard, vulnerability and all. So now the today's assignment will be primarily directed towards hazard identification and vulnerability assessment in your area, particularly keeping in mind your sector. So what you have to do in this assignment is considering each hazard one by one. Suppose let us say flood. Suppose you are taking the flood as an example. So you first have to identify whether could this hazard affect your area or organization. Just you have to come up with yes or no. If you think yes, then you can carry on with further filling up the further categories. Suppose if you think yes, flood can be, if it can affect your area or organization, then you know, like you can first primarily identify your area. Suppose whether it is a hill area or the Indo-Gangetic Plain or the coastal areas. And also then what is the likelihood for the event occurring is that hazard occurring, like what will be the vulnerability, whether it will be the low, like how vulnerable is your area, how vulnerable is your organization, whether it is, if you just imagine and broadly classify into classes, whether that fall under low vulnerability, whether it fall under moderate vulnerability, or do you think that flood can be a very high vulnerable to their area or very high. So there are actually four categories, very high. So you have to identify vulnerability assessment, and along with that, you also have to identify what type of vulnerability that. Suppose physical vulnerability, physical like Surya sir also highlighted, consider your infrastructure, your roads, your investment. So what is the vulnerability? What is the vulnerability of that thing? And also social vulnerability. Social vulnerability, particularly focusing at on the population. Suppose like different population group have different vulnerabilities. Suppose handicapped people, in just say example, they will need extra attention, or the old people, they are more vulnerable to any hazard. So you have to consider the social vulnerability also, and also the economic vulnerability. So what could be the economic losses, what could be the economic damages of any particular hazard that could occur. And you should also identify, like, could any person be killed or injured in this event. So similarly, taking example of each hazard, suppose first you have to do it for the flood, then cyclone. We have broadly classified the hazard into 5 groups. One is water and climate related disaster, where you find a list of hazards. Similarly, you have the geological related disaster, where landslides and mud flow, earthquake, dam, this. And like yes sir highlighted, earthquake, they don't have any particular season, they can occur at any time. Similarly, you have chemical, industrial, and nuclear related disaster, and the accident related disaster, and biological related disaster, like the current pandemic we are facing. So you just have to go one by one. think carefully whether that chances of occurrence is there, and what are the likely vulnerable, what is the vulnerability, what is the physical vulnerability, what are the areas, or what are the different sector that could affect that that hazard can affect. So you just have to identify all this, and you have to make a we will share this template with you, so you can fill this template in Word file, or you can take a pen and copy, and you can make do it by hand also. And you are expected to make a presentation on the last day. We will try to come up with a group or something. So there will be, I think, 2 to 3 groups. We will work on that based on your attendance, and based on that, on the last day, we will try to hear from you what you have learned and how do you take this, and based on your presentation and your suggestion, we'll try to come up with some suggestions, and we'll try to come up with some collaborative action. So this will be the assignment for today, and tomorrow again we will try to come up with some assignment. And the main part for this assignment is to like in the inaugural session, like both the dignitaries, they highlighted that for active participation, not only listening, but your involvement is also very necessary. So we want you to come up with you take this exercise and come up with some suggestions or some innovative actions that you think could be taken in this matter. So this is the assignment for today. I think we will share this later on. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of today's session. And I would like to propose a vote of thanks at the end of today's session. So I wish to express first of all my sincere gratitude to Mr. M.R. Dubedi ji, CGM, HSE, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, and also Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, Executive Director, NIDM, for their encouragement and support to organize this 3-day training program. And I must mention my deep sense of appreciation for our distinguished speakers of today's session, Professor Surya Prakash, Head Division, NIDM, Shri VP Mahavar Sarji, former Director, ONGC, Shri Jayadev Lahariji, Chief Manager, Engineering and HSE Oil India Limited, and Mr. Anil Kathet, YP NIDM, who is also the coordinator of this training program, to enlighten the participant with their vast knowledge and experience, and sharing their personal experience with the participant. And I must express my deep sense of appreciation to Professor Surya Prakash, because he is the chair of this training program, and he always encourages us to excel more in all our efforts. So I express my deep sense of appreciation to Surya Prakash sir also. And last, but we are also thankful to the participant also because without them this program wouldn't be successful. And last but not the least, to all my GMRI team, Dr. Harjeet Kaur, who will be moderating tomorrow's session, Anil Katherji, and even our IT team, who is Sovit, Balaji, Gaurav, for making this event successful. And on behalf of NIDM and IOCL, we wish all the participants a very happy and successful life. Like, stay safe, stay healthy. 2 gaj ki duri aur mask hai zaruri to fight against this COVID-19 pandemic. Tomorrow we will be joined by various distinguished speakers who will be sharing their experience. Please join us tomorrow at the same time using the same link. The same link will be active for all the 3 days of the training program. So you have to use the same link to join us tomorrow, same time. So thank you very much for today's session. Thank you, everybody. Anil sir, is there anything left?
No.
Okay,
we will call off day today.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I think we can end the meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.